Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for a heroic super guide for defeating Zinaar, the first boss of League of Explorers, in heroic mode with every class and even a deck of common cards only. As Kobolds and Catacombs approaches, gonna try get in the videos for all of the League of Explorers bosses that I have beaten with every single hero class, and common and basic cards only. Starting off with Zinaar. Now, Zinaar is an interesting one. He ramps very quickly and can sort of overwhelm your board very quickly because of all the mana he gets to use early on. You can fall behind. But if you do manage to survive, you get these very powerful 0 mana spells, which you can use to discover cards that are good for the situation, obviously. Discover your spells, etc. Now this can combo very well with some broken things like Flame Waker and Arcane Giants. Often, if one card is not sort of clearly the best, you often just want to take the card that is the least amount of mana, because in general you're going to be filling up your hand, finding it really hard to actually play out all these cards that you keep discovering. You're essentially drawing 2 cards every turn. You want cheap things that you can play to get value from, that help you catch up on board. So with that said, let's look at the concrete decks I used to take him out. First up for Druid, we have Astral Insanity, with a familiar theme. Getting out an Innovate Astral Communion is the ideal, but we also have tools like Wild Growth, Darnassus Aspirant, and Nourish, if we miss the Astral Communion, to get us to enough mana where we can play our big threats. Of course, you may well be dead by then, given his early board pressure, but if you get lucky, you might survive and can stabilize with some bulky late-game minions like Ancient of War with Taunt, Cenarius to give you more Taunt, and then you get really high-value minions like Kel'Thuzad. So the idea is to draw sort of a big minion each turn that really gets you a lot of value, and essentially like gets ahead of his mana curve even. And you have really gross threats here, like you know, Kel'Thuzading back some of these threats like Sneed's Old Shredder, etc. I'm not going to spend a long time on this. I mean, it's a similar idea I've used in a bunch of decks to beat these heroic bosses. In the case of what's it called? In the case of Zinaar, it's nice that you also, because if you do Astral Communion early and sort of you're drawing 1 minion per turn, but if you draw something smaller like an Azure Drake or Nourish to draw 3 cards, you're also getting the 0 mana spells he gives you to be able to potentially fill out the rest of your mana effectively, even if you didn't draw the perfect thing to fill it. On to Hunter, and we're playing a bunch of early minions that just try to help us keep tempo early on. There's the you know, hope of like getting a good Crackling Razormaw on one of your Alley Cat minions tokens that spawn to take out something big and more valuable. Fiery Bats, etc. Hunter's Mark to help take you down the bigger threats that you'll come up against. Value cards like Kindly Grandmother, Mad Scientist to get out secrets like Explosive Trap that help you do AoE to his board, which often snowballs early. Misdirection likewise helps you get his minions to hit into each other. Cloaked Huntress gives you the ability to spike a bunch of these secrets, which you'll pair with your Eagle Horn Bow. Kill commands for damage, and Unleash as another board management tool. Only Savannah Highmane is above 3 mana, and the idea here is you have such cheap stuff that you can easily fit them in between the cards that you're actually discovering and get to play them all out and get value from all the cards that you're generating. And that can help you get on top. Mage has a very cool tool you can use, Flame Waker. So this is one of the decks where you actually save up your 0 mana spells. If you have a Flame Waker in hand, you almost always save the 0 mana spells to use once you have the Flame Waker out and get a bunch of extra damage to help you catch up and even get ahead on board. You're going to have Mad Scientist to cheat out secrets, your primary secrets being Mana Bind. Again, turn spells into 0 mana spells that you can use with that Flame Waker to really get a lot of value. Meteor, a great way to clear something big and effectively do AoE. Archmage Antonidas, again, you're getting 0 mana spells, so it works very well with that. And some other big value things like Firelands Portal for your later game. Animalis as an emergency board clear. If it's sort of in his 2nd or 3rd wave he floods the board again with a bunch of minions, you get this out, it can help you stabilize. Ronin for a bunch of cheap 1-mana spells that again can go really well with a massive... Imagine you play Flamewaker, a bunch of 0-mana spells, and a bunch of Arcane Missiles. You just clear his board and do tons of damage. And you have Arcane Missiles yourself in there for the same reason, and Mana Worm to grow from some of these early cheap spells. So really it's a deck designed around cheap, taking advantage of the cheap spells, with some tools that really benefit a lot from it, and some more cheap spells of your own to really double down on that theme. This is quite an effective deck for taking him out. You still need luck to not fall way too behind early and, you know, get your Flamewakers at the right time. But it's one of the stronger ones to really, really strongly take advantage of those cheap spells you're getting. The Paladin game plan I have is to do some massive healing after you fall behind, clear his board, and that's with tools like Forbidden Healing, Ragnaros Lightlord. Clear his board a bunch of times progressively when he keeps putting out threads, so you have your Pyro Equalities, your Eadric the Pure to neutralize his board, your Equality Consecration. And last but not least, you play some huge minions between Ragnaros the Lightlord, Spikeridge Steeding stuff, Tyrion Fordring, Nazothing it back, and then eventually build up a board to win. If I recall correctly, it was a while ago. I think this deck did take me a few efforts, quite a few attempts to actually pull off. You have to kind of get things in the right order because your game plan is sort of step by step. Heal, then clear, then play huge stuff, then win. If you draw things in the wrong order, you will suffer for it, but it has all the tools you need to pull off a win if you do persevere. Priest follows a little bit of a similar game plan to the last deck with Paladin, but doubles down on the Death Rattle even further. It does have Fugan and Stalag again, like the Paladin deck, and the Zoth to bring that back, Sylvanas, Sludge Belchers, etc., and Awaken the Makers, so that if you play a certain amount, you can get the heal back to 40 where you've really stabilized, and then can start getting ahead with your value minions, take control of the board, and the extra cards that he's giving you. In terms of the middle game, we have some tools that help stabilize. Light Bomb is a big one for a giant board clear. You obviously have your deaths to deal with some of his bigger threats like the June Maul Shamans, the Fire God Destroyers that come out big, Shadow Visions to find your tools, and mid-range things like Dark Cultist, Cabal Talonpriest that help buff each other to give you an ability to get a bit more value out of them in the early game to help you survive and get to your big heals and bring back a big board with Nazoth that can finally take over. One of the more fun ways to do it is, since he's drawing a card like clockwork or extra card every single turn, mill the hell out of him. Get him to burn a bunch of his deck when he fills up his hands due to drawing so much, and then essentially kill him eventually through milling. And Rogue is always the best class to do this with. Your Cold Light Oracles are your key, ganging them up to make sure you get even more of them and can keep milling and milling and milling. Vanish is your great tool to sort of reset the board. When he does fill it up but has a lot of cards, you'll kill a lot of his minions when you do Vanish. If you can, you know, prep that out, followed by the Cold Light Oracle to burn even more cards, then he draws and his hero power draws him yet another one. All this adds up to being able to burn a huge number of cards. It's not easy to pull off. I'm not gonna, you know, say that, but it is one of the more fun ways to take him down, to feel like you're really punishing him for abusing his hero power the way he does. For Shaman, I went with a pretty defensive deck. We have our Elemental Destructions to give you big board resets, Doomsayers, Devolves to chill out his board, Earthshocks, more silences, Forked Lightning even to deal with some of his early kind of aggressive starts he can have, Glacial Shard to freeze stuff that's threatening and act as an activator for Calamos because his effects are so powerful, choosing a ton of healing or dealing AoE to his old board. And we have some powerful Death Rattles again, Fugan and Stalag to give you big threat in the late game with Thaddeus, White Eyes the same, Aya Blackpaw to pair with some of your Jade cards like Jade Claws to build up bigger threats over time as well, and double Healing Wave to give you the chance for a big heal if you have survived and are low on life. We also have Jade Lightning for the Jades, Lightning Storm for more AoE. Defensive deck, which plans in the very, very long run to eventually take over and let you take advantage of the extra cards you're getting from his hero power. In the case of Warlock, I beat him back in the day in the time of the adventure. I think this was the first deck I beat him with, if not the Astral Insanity. I think it was this one. And it's along the lines of a handlock. You have your Molten Giants to take advantage of the fact that you'll get low on life very quick. Your Alexstrasza to help you heal up. Reno, you look at this and think, why the hell is Reno in here? Because you have doubles of. The idea is once you get pretty far through your deck, you may just need that last final heal to sort of put you over the edge, and Reno you can use towards the end of the game if you need that stabilization. Heal bots, good old heal bots, because Warlock doesn't inherently have great healing. Defensive tools like Belchers, you have your Twilight Drakes, you have a lot of AoE, Shadow Flames, Hellfires, Demon Rats, anything, you know, the ability to taunt up with Sun Furies, either your Molten Giants or your Ancient Watchers, Arguses as well. So a pretty old school defensive handlock deck. You don't have your Mountain Giants is the main difference, sacrificing that for having some extra healing tools like Reno and some extra AoE beyond what you ordinarily put in. In modern times, you probably go with the Mistress of Mixtures over Zombie Chow to give you board presence that can actually heal you. And that's the deck that I took him out with back in the day. The Warrior deck I beat him with has a very consistent theme, which is just keep removing his board. The idea is you don't need to put that many minions of your own in because you'll discover minions through the wishes that you get. You just need to focus on being able to deal with his barrage of threats, because if you do run him out of cards, you'll win very quickly. He's just going to mill himself even if you don't play minions. The defensive tools the defensive minions you do have in here are Tar Creepers, just very good early game value to help you block his early attacks. Abomination to deal 2 damage to his board, and King Marsh to couple with something like Whirlwind, or, you know, doing damage on his to a bunch of his minions on the previous turn to help you clear. Mistress of Mixtures also for some extra healing. Ravaging Ghoul to act as another Whirlwind effect activator for things like Sleep with the Fishes. You have a lot of ways to sort of injure his board. You have Revengers, which will be even more effective when you're low on life, etc. Cleave, kind of like Forked Lightning, to just deal with very fast starts from him with two minions. Shield Block to help you draw you through your deck to get to your Brawls, which are your big sort of board resets. Thinking, this deck could utilize a Justicar for sure, give you the ability to like hero power a ton over the course of the game. But that's the deck. You're essentially relying on consistently removing his minions. Early Doomsayers help to prevent you from falling way too far behind. Keep clearing his board over and over again, and eventually discover minions that will give you that advantage on board. Last but not least is defeating him with a deck of common and basic cards only. This one's kind of amusing because, as you can see in the screenshots of when I did defeat him with it, because of his wishes that you discover things, you'll often end up, you know, discovering cards that are way better than your basic and common cards only. You see here I had Lich King, among many other sort of overpowered tools that I use to really build up an irresistible board. So what helps you get to utilizing that stuff, you do have the double Divine Spirits to help you create like some big early value minions that can do a ton of trading, to just help sort of utilize his board. Or you can get them on Radiant Elementals to help you be able to like discover spells that are then cheaper as well. Spirit Lash for healing, Velen's Chosen AoE goes well with things like Holy Nova. You notice it is a very low curve overall, nothing higher than 5 mana, and that's to give you the opportunity to play the things you get from the wishes, because on over time, you're going to find things that are better than what's in your deck. So you want to be able to play out those valuable things and still get value from your own deck by putting in, by playing some cheaper minions. You have your mid-range value things again, like Cultist and Talon Priest, to buff your minions to get extra value out of. Ultimately, it's a game. Potion of Madness, by the way, works very well with his like pit snakes to kill minions of his own and the pit snake itself. You're ultimately looking to just stay alive, you know, with value during the early mid-game. Eventually, like, incrementally take control of his board. Find good spells that you don't have access to in the basic common set, like Light Bomb to reset the board, and then find good minions the same way to be able to take advantage of it. And this deck, you know, it's all golden in my collection. Basic and common cards only. I did manage to take down Zinaar. Overall, he's not the hardest boss. It's a, you know, it's pretty heavy RNG fight. You certainly need things to go your way and can get screwed over, you know, by the luck of the wishes you get, and you do sort of start behind. But he's definitely, you know, if you play him a few times, wait till you get a run that isn't too bad luck, you definitely have a good shot of beating him. And this is the list of all decks I used to do it, in all classes that I beat him with, and a deck of basic and common cards only. Good luck to yourself if you get to try it out. See you next time.